Okay, so we are continuing the amazing teachings of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, and tonight we are learning in Sefer Sichot HaRan, Perek Pei Gimel 83. And tonight we are going to be learning about the illogical areas of life, how we as human beings, as much as we pride ourselves in our brains, but oftentimes, and more often than we would like, so we are being controlled by things that our brain knows are wrong. Okay, so we're just consistently dumb, and it's statistically proven that human beings, despite our awesome brain, we're consistently ignoring our amazing brains. So this is what Rebbe Nachman is talking about from two perspectives. We're going to be speaking about anxieties and phobias, and we're going to be speaking about lusts and desires. That both of these things, that they go against what we know, and it goes against our logic, it goes against our rational thinking, and nevertheless we keep on going back to it. Okay, so, and he's going not only that, but he's going to teach us how to take care of it, and how to overcome this, and how to come to a place that we're going to B'ezrat Hashem be in control. Okay, so it goes like this: B'inyan hayiros v'pechanim, when it comes to fears and anxieties, that a person has, al pi harov, become dvarim or b'nei adam she'enam yecholim lahazik lo klal. That generally speaking, the things that a person is anxious or fearful from is from things or people that actually cannot damage him. V'hadavar nira shirak b'soif k'sha'adam nistalik v'sheichav al aretz v'raglev al adeles az yil yishav adas b'emes v'yistak la'atzma v'yer ha'emes shekal hayiras v'apachadem she'hem yisrael me'ez b'nei adam she'amdu k'negdo haya hakol shtus v'hevel. So a person can sometimes have the feeling that I'm going to be plagued by these thoughts, mamish, until the day I die. And only when my actual last breath has left me, and he makes it very vivid, that when he's shochiv al haaretz, when he's lying on the ground, the raglav el hadelet, and your feet are facing the door. Okay, that's the way when the Chevra Kadisha bring a person to be buried. So there's a halacha that you take him feet first. Okay? I heard once when I was in yeshiva, I don't know if it's a real thing, that there's a thing not to sleep with your feet towards the like when we're alive, like that you should make sure that your head is closer to the door, not your feet, because you don't want to make it look like you're dead. Right? So he's saying only then when your feet are toward the door and your mamish not here anymore, only then will I have Yishuv Adas, only then will I be able to escape all of these anxieties that are trying to bother me. Then only at that point a person is going to realize how everything is just stupid. That it was just for nothing. It was for naught, because what can the person really do to me? A person, when a person's at the end of it, at the present person's life, so he's going to realize that, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Only then, when I'm dead, will I be able to have clarity. Okay, so he's talking about two things. He's talking about anxieties and fears, and he's talking about lusts that the person is overcome with, the person is plagued by, and the common denominator is that they are illogical. Okay, so how does this play out in our lives? So, we have a word like phobia. Like phobia is the definition of the word phobia is something that has no logical logical backing, right? But the truth is, he's saying that really almost all anxieties are sort of close to phobia, right? That I know it's become a term in the last couple of years. I don't think it was a term when I was a kid. That Islamophobia. That's really a misuse of the term, because if you're scared of somebody who wants to kill you and says he's going to kill you and tries whenever he can to kill you, so that's not a phobia. That's actually it's actually very, very backed by clinical research. So a person, we have lots of fears. We have lots of anxieties that do plague us, unfortunately. People have anxiety that something horrible happened to someone they know. Someone happened, it's relevant is relevant with parents of their children, or with siblings, like somebody with a friend, like, I don't know, he hasn't texted me in 20 minutes, maybe something horrible happened, and I know my wife always goes crazy, like, with when my kids don't come home on time, and like, should we call the police? It's been 3 hours already, and so just, you need to calm down, and it's okay, and so it's the fear is sometimes for ourselves, that sometimes people have fears that they have some horrible illness, even though there's no real reason. I know I've had this, it's a specific thing, like Baruch Hashem, I'm a pretty healthy person, and so whenever I have anything that's a little bit like under the weather, so like I'm sure I'm dying, so like I remember being in the mikveh on Shabbos, and like I was congested. So like when you're congested, so then you feel like pressure in your head when you're underwater. And like I was thinking, oh my gosh, I feel this pressure in my head. That must be a tumor, like. and I know that it's unlikely. I know, like, what's the chances? And no, it's probably just a headache, And but what did I do? I said, okay, Hashem, I'm ready to die. I'm ready. I'm doing tshuva. If this is my instead of telling myself like to stop thinking like that, to like embrace it, which is not good. That's not what you should do. You should learn how to deal with the anxiety, which we're going to get to. So, on a similar note, just like people have fear that they are coming down with some horrible illness, the person could have a fear that they're coming down with mental illness. A person like I've heard people say, like, I'm scared that I'm going crazy. I'm scared that I'm going to have a mental breakdown. I'm scared that I'm losing it, right? And a similar note, some people have a fear of falling asleep because they think that something bad is going to happen to them. A lot of people have told me that they have a fear of falling asleep because they're scared they're going to have nightmares. And it's an illogical, like that, okay, you have a nightmare. Like, even if you have a nightmare, it's not a reason to lose your sleep. There's not a reason not to sleep. You're like, a person needs sleep. And a person like doesn't, these are illogical things. And of course, we have people who are scared of flying, people who are scared of needles, people who are scared of elevators, people who are scared of certain numbers, and bugs, yes. Okay, especially women. And that's what has been so far, And so we have I think human beings have a general anxiety that I said something stupid and I made a fool of myself. And because I made a fool of myself, so then everybody's going to judge me, everybody is judging me, everybody dislikes me, everybody's going to dislike me. And we have these long, elegant stories of how everybody else is reacting to us. And there's a story I like to tell that there was a guy that was telling his friends that when I was 20 years old, so I was very concerned about what everybody's saying about me. I made sure that I was like living up to their standards, and then like to make sure that they're going to think that I'm cool, they're going to think that I'm acceptable, they're going to think that I'm validated. And then when I was 40, I said, you know what? Let them talk. I'm going to be my truth. I'm going to live my life. And like, in your face, like, you deal with me. And then when I was 60, I realized that the whole thing was a mistake. Nobody was ever looking at me. Nobody was ever judging me. Nobody ever cared. Nobody ever noticed me. It was all, this whole inner dialogue was all a bluff. And so we live our lives based on like these fictitious narratives, fictitious dialogues that we're putting in people's mouths, that this is how they're really relating to us, and this is because of this we're living in this terror of how people are reacting to us, and most of the time the whole thing is mamish. It's mamish in our heads. Mamish, it's a bluff, and. So this is Rebbe Nachman's first point. That all of our anxieties. So if we would ask ourselves logically, does this make sense? Does the statistics of what's happened, of what you're scared is going to happen, does it actually justify the emotions that you are letting yourself go with? And the answer is no. Okay, and yet we do it. Okay? And I think then he continues that the same thing is true when it comes to lusts. Okay, lust in Hebrew is ta'avot. Is physical desires. So this is relevant. We talked about these things before. That This is relevant with eating in general, sugar especially. My son told me, he quoted me. I told him I'm very tired. He said maybe you're low on sugar. He told me that I told him that once we need these sugar rushes, and sometimes people have desires for scrolling. People have for being on social media. Being on social media for hours at a time is something that just consumes us, and it gives us a certain feeling. It's a neurological thing. It's a dopamine rush that of being on social media, that it puts us in a certain state of mind that we're in our safe zone. We tell ourselves that this gives us comfort. This makes us feel good about ourselves to be in this state that I'm just scrolling and just having this downtime or whatever. And because we tell ourselves this narrative that this is making us feel good, so it makes us feel good, and it gives us, and we crave it. Or when we're in this, I can't go to sleep before going on whatever social media I use, and then next thing I know, it's 2:30 in the morning, and I just killed my next day. And so that some people have this with risks and danger and gambling, and there's a certain rush of that danger that they need to find. And some people have a similar thing with novelty, which is I need something new. I need something to do, something exciting. I need to do something that I've never done before. Some people have this with attention, right? This is the crave attention, and this is something it's also the dopamine thing. And this is especially with girls. This is the conversation of tzniut. So this is the whole discussion that the reason why girls have a desire to dress in a certain way is because it gives them a certain attention, and they get addicted to that attention, and even though they know that attention that they're getting is not serving them. It's not actually what they're looking for. They're looking for something which is going to actually give them happiness, and this is not giving them happiness. And this is really the twist. This is really the whole mistake, the whole illogical element of this lust is specifically this. I was speaking to somebody who was dealing with a weed addiction, and so he was trying to explain to me why he does it. He said why do you like learning? Why do you like learning Torah? Because it makes you feel good, right? Because so this is what makes me feel good. We're all the same. Just human beings are just looking to feel good. So I told him, no, that you're making a mistake. It's not the same thing. That you're looking for pleasure, and I'm looking for something else entirely. I'm looking for satisfaction. And the two are in fact opposites. That it's pleasure that holds us back from satisfaction. They're two completely different feelings, completely different sensations, completely different parts of our brain. And because they confuse the two, so then they waste their life looking for pleasure, which is all of this lusts, and they never get to the point of life, which is the satisfaction. And that's the logical error in this in these people's brain. So this is the question. This is the anomaly that Rebbe Nachman is pointing to, and so he was thinking about this. He was thinking about this reality that people do these illogical ways of living, and so he continues. That there's something to this. There must be something to this. How could it be that the whole world is illogical? That it must be that it's a little bit enigmatic. He says it must be that there's a davar, there's a thing. There must be this thing inside of us, and it's that thing that's having these anxieties. Because he's saying it's not our brain. It must, so if it's not our brain, so what is it? It's a thing. So even though you know in your brain that the thing that you have anxiety from can't hurt you, nevertheless you're extremely scared of it. Because it's not you, it's not your brain that's being afraid, it's this davar, it's this thing inside of you, which is causing this pain. And he proves it. The people have lots of fears. They know themselves that it's silly. They know themselves that it doesn't make any sense. They know very well that it doesn't make any sense, and nevertheless they don't do anything about it. Now he has another proof. His first proof was the people just admit it, that yes, I know it's stupid, but what can I do? His second proof is, if you sneak up behind somebody and you say boo, so then and then you get really scared, and so he says, what's going on with that? Yeah, never thought about it. Like, why? He just said boo. What's the big deal? So as I who take off mispached ma'od kodesh maschadav lichnas b'dayt klab, you're scared even before your brain had the time to process what just happened. Shadayin ani yodea klal shum davar ki ba'ala pisa me'achav v'achad piken hu mispached tekef miyad kodim sheis chaladas leida me'na pached. So your brain hasn't yet dealt with the reason why you're being scared. So if it hasn't entered your brain, so how could you possibly be scared? The reason why you're afraid, and it's just this davar, it's this thing inside of you. So what is this davar? So in 2026, so we call this the amygdala. Right? Because you can call it the nervous system. It's a whole system. It's not that the amygdala is part of it. But what Rebbe Nachman is pointing to is the fact that we have two parts of our psyche. We have two parts of our being. One is our thinking brain, and one is our irrational brain. Okay, that's the nervous system, and what's called the amygdala, it's the reptile brain, what they call, and so there's an interesting thing that science believes that the element of that the amygdala is like evolutionarily before the thinking brain, is before the prefrontal cortex, and that's how they explain the fact that it's more primal, like precisely what he is relating to, what he is expressing, that how could it be that fear it contains you before your brain kicks in. So science explains, because that element of your brain, the nervous system, so that's more primal to your existence even before your thinking brain came into existence. So it's very interesting that the Torah says a very similar thing. It says in Parshas Noach that ki yetzer lev ha'adam ra minu urav, that the Yetzer Hara is there from the time that you're very, very young. And so Chazal saying this, the Gemara says in Nida that we learn from here that a person's Yetzer Hara kicks in way before his Yetzer Tov. That your Yetzer Hara you're born with, whereas your Yetzer Tov you only get when you're bar mitzvah. Right? So it's actually very aligned with the fact that your Yetzer Hara, or in other words, your primal non-thinking brain, the amygdala, the part of you that's just survival mode, even if it's the wrong thing to do, so that is more primal. That is more elementary. It's more basic, right? So basically, what are these what are these basic the feelings? What are these messages that we're getting from our amygdala? So we're programmed, and we're programming ourselves actively to save ourselves from danger. Right? So a person naturally has a survival instinct, so we want to save ourselves from danger. So if there's any reason to believe that I might have a terminal illness, chas v'shalom, so then I want to save myself from that. So I want to keep my feelers out, so in order that I should protect myself. So if I have something like this, then I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to go to the hospital, not to, I read about this guy that had that it didn't feel pain the way that we feel pain. Like if he would get a cut, if he would get hit, so that it wouldn't bother him, and so I don't remember the whole context, but at first everybody thought that, wow, that's so awesome, it's such a bracha not to feel pain, right? But the truth is that it's actually very dangerous. because when we feel pain, so we're able to protect ourselves that we should do something about it, because the truth is, it's not, the pain is just a symptom. Really, the fact that we feel pain is usually a symptom that there's something that needs to be done, so we're able to protect ourselves, whereas the person who doesn't feel pain, so he needs to be more proactive. He doesn't have a pressing reason to go to the hospital, but so then he's not gonna, so he won't necessarily do it, and he might, so really all of anxiety comes from a primal instinct of survival, right? And so the problem is that it tells us that the only way that you can function is if you obey me, okay? And then we have this feeling of unease, because maybe my loved one is in danger, maybe I'm in danger, maybe my life is ruined, maybe everybody is laughing at me, maybe everybody is going to disown me, unfriend me, and maybe my life is over. That's a serious thing. If my life is over, I should do something about that, right? So the anxiety comes from a healthy place of a desire to survive, a desire to have a good life, and so this amygdala tells me that get rid of this feeling of unease. Obey me. If you want to feel good about yourself, if you want to feel like really that you're living a proper life, so you must obey me. Right? That's its message. That is its message of anxiety. And it's really the exact same thing when it comes to taivas, when it comes to lust. That we have a natural physical desires, and our body tells us this is what you need, and so there's a certain lack, there's a certain feeling of that I would be nice to have this, and so the amygdala tells you that the only way that you're finally going to be okay is if you obey me. Okay, and this brings a person to obey whenever my body wants something. So I say, yes, sir. How high? And this is like I live my life just satisfying whatever my amygdala wants at the given moment, and so then what happens? So like, besides the fact that like he's saying that's illogical, but like, so what? Like if a person is gonna ask me like okay, yeah, I have anxieties. I don't shake hands with anybody because I'm scared that if I shake hands with people, then they're going to give me germs and I'm going to die. Okay, like what's the big deal, right? And a person's going to say, yeah. Whenever I'm in the mood for anything, I buy it, I eat it. That's exactly what I do, and I prove me wrong. Like it works for me, right? So what's the problem? So what's actually the issue with these things? So there's two things in case it's not clear, but a person could certainly I was reading that it's actually not so accurate to say that that's the amygdala versus the prefrontal cortex, because sometimes the amygdala can take the prefrontal cortex hostage to fulfill its needs. Or in other words, the person's amygdala will use his logical brain to justify his addictions and to justify his anxieties, so it's a little bit complicated, but there's logical life and there's illogical life, and this is the tension over here. So what, if a person's going to come to you and he's going to say, what's the big deal? Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I be full of anxieties and be full of lusts and taivas? So there's really two. So there's really two reasons. And by the way, these two things. There's the reason why Rebbe Nachman puts them together. The reason why he puts together anxieties with lust, because it's really two sides of the same coin. That the anxiety is that you have a certain discomfort, and get rid of that discomfort. Right? And the lust is that there's a desire for dopamine, a desire for this feeling of fulfillment. And it's a thirst. And so one is a desire for peace. One is that there's a discomfort that I want to get rid of, and the way to get rid of the discomfort is by avoiding. And the other one is a thirst because of a lack, and the way to get rid of that discomfort is by feeding. Right? So they're two sides of the same coin, right? Same thing when it comes to parenting. So I always explain that this is like when you want to get when the parents want to get something done. So there's like they have people mistake parenting with forcing. That you can force people. The same thing with students. The same with employees. So that you can force people to do stuff, but that doesn't mean that you actually change them. That doesn't mean that you actually got any message over. So a parent could say that, like, look at my kids, they're so awesome, they're so well behaved, and the reason why they're so well behaved is because they know that if you don't behave, then they're going to get beaten to a pulp. So that you haven't actually raised good kids. You forced them to behave well through the fear of pain, right? So then there's parents that they say, well, I don't want to be a bad parent. I'm never going to tell my kid I'm going to beat them to a pulp. So I'll be a good parent, and I'll say, if you behave, I'll buy you an amazing present. And they think that they're such good parents because now they're positive parenting, and they don't realize that it's the exact same thing. It's just two sides of the same coin. You're right. It's less abusive, but you haven't begun parenting yet because you're simply forcing them to do whatever you want by enticing them with this desire for their needs. Right? So it's really the dislike of discomfort and the desire, the craving of comfort is really the exact same thing, just opposites. Right? So now back to Rebbe Nachman. So he says, so why? What's wrong? What's the problem? What's the problem with living life of anxiety and lust? What's the big deal? It works for me. So there's two big issues over here. Number one, and this is I don't know which is more important. They're both pretty important. Number one is it ruins your life. Okay, this actually ruins your life. They both ruin your life. A person that has an addiction, so that eventually they realize that they're just not showing up, that they're not available for their friends, they're not available for the people around them, they're not able to hold jobs, they're not able. That's why it's a very dangerous thing when you have a person who's like he's able to barely make it, he's able to function. So then it's much more difficult because then like they don't realize that, yeah, but life could be so much better, but they don't sometimes like you have to reach a rock bottom of like that you get fired, you get it's just that, and but really when you're just always feeding to your addictions, so then you actually lose your life. When it comes to scrolling, so it's quite obvious. With alcohol, it's also quite obvious that you simply like your hours of your life are in the garbage. Like if you would think about like your phone, like your phone it tells you like you used your phone this many hours a week. So like if you would make a calculation of how many weeks you have shortened your lifespan. If you put all those hours into days, and all those days into weeks, and those days into weeks into years, and like I donated 10 years of my life to scrolling. It's like 10 years is a long time. So this is that's a big thing. That's a big thing. You're simply ruining your life. You're simply just wasting your life. You're throwing your life in the garbage. Okay, and even if it's not literally, even like with scrolling, it's actually literally with something with like intense drugs, so intense alcohol. It's literally that like there is nothing there. You have nothing to account for this past 15 hours, but even if it's not that bad, but like it's not the same. Like the quality of life when you're actually showing up is so much better than when you're not really there. Okay, and the same thing with anxiety, because when you're anxious, you're not able to function properly. You're lacking the ability to show up to life. When I'm nervous about something, so then I'm just not comfortable, and when I allow it to eat me up. So then my quality of life is so bad that like usually I'm not able to function. I snap at people. I can't take new tasks. Like when you're anxious about something, so then somebody asks you to do something simple, you're just like, I'm sorry, I can't deal with this right now, right? And so you're not showing up to life, right? Okay, that's number one. And number two, which is more basic. It's more of a mature kind of problem, but it's equally crucial, and that is that when you are when you are plagued by anxieties and by lusts, so you are actually a slave. And you're actually not in control of your life. And that is a horrible, horrible feeling. This is a person that wants to do something right now. Like, I wish I could enjoy myself. I wish I could sit and read a book. I wish I could go out with my friends. And I can't because I have anxiety. That's like I'm such a loser. Like, I want to be doing something, and I'm a slave to my anxiety, right? Or the same thing with lust. I want to be doing something productive. I know that really what's going to give me satisfaction, what's going to make me feel good about myself is if I do X, Y, Z, and I don't because I'm anxious, or because I'm scrolling, or because I'm drinking, or because I'm whatever, and I feel like a loser. I feel like a loser because I've lost control. I've lost control of my life, and it's a horrible feeling, and it's certainly a reason to want to deal with this. Okay, so this brings us to this observation of Rebbe Nachman that these things are plaguing us, and it's really weird. It's really weird that we have this davar, we have this thing that he didn't have. He didn't have the scientific terms back in the 1700s, but this davar called the nervous system, it's called the amygdala. So this is really messing with us. And he says that, and then he continues, the same thing with taivas, who gam kein mamish, she'afa pi she'adam yodea she'taivas zos shtus v'hevel, even though you know that this is something which is stupid. There's this davar, okay? There's this amygdala, this reptile brain, that is what is lusting. Okay, now it comes to the solution. Now it comes to the resolution. V'alken, bevadai, im ha'adam yiyashev atzmo hetev. If a person is going to learn how to bring himself to a state of yishuv hadas, yiyashev atzmo, bekal yuchal l'salek mimenu kol hayiras v'hapachadim, then it would be very simple for a person to just get rid of all of his anxieties and all of his fears. V'chein kol ha'tayvus, and similarly, a person would just be able to let go of all of his tayvus, ma'achar sheyodea, because he knows, shebe'emes einam klum, because he knows in his brain that there's nothing. That there's davar, there's this thing inside of me, this amygdala, this bleeping amygdala, which is messing with my life. So the yeshiva das is what allows this person to overcome all of these things. Okay, so what does this mean? So first of all, that to know your enemy. To know the issue, to understand that we are programmed to have this illogical guy inside of us that is constantly screaming stupidities, and just you have to deal with it. We have to deal with this annoying neighbor, which like you can't get rid of her, and she's always going to be asking you to do things, and like she's going to annoy you until you do it, and you just have to learn how to ignore her, okay? And just like simply knowing that it exists is really a big thing, and most importantly, because knowing that it's not you, I think is a huge thing. That like this is what I think that one of the most basic revolutionary things in the Tanya is the beginning of the Tanya. So he presents that you need to know that you have two souls, that you have a godly soul and you have an animal soul. And like I've met so many people that like that was their aha moment in life, that like, whoa, now it all makes sense. Like I didn't understand, like I didn't get it. Like, how come I want this stuff, but I also want holy stuff, and like it doesn't make sense. And like suddenly, like just that clarity that like, no, you have two souls. It's okay. That's the way you're created. And like until now, I thought that like I need to be true to myself to listen to my animal soul. And then the Tanya says, no, you're actually not supposed to be listening to your animal soul. So if you want to be true to yourself, so you should control your animal soul. And that's precisely what he's saying over here. That like the knowledge that this is not the real me. This isn't like we have we tend to think that like if I want to be true to myself. So if I have this desire inside of me, if I have this anxiety, so like don't you dare tell me that it's shtusim. Don't you dare tell me that I'm being stupid. They're like, this is me. I have a fear. I have a fear of elevators. Like don't you tell me that your logic, your statistics, that like you never know. Maybe it'll just maybe I'm the one that's going to make all those cords just break, and then I'm going to be down 30 floors, and then no more me. So, I should respect my feelings. Maybe it's you can make it like even spiritual. It's like there's a reason why Hashem gave me these feelings, because I need these feelings because He's protecting me. This is my protecting angel, which is helping me survive the elevators. And so a person has a tendency to think that I should be true to myself, and the knowledge that no, this is not being true to yourself. This is that you have this davar, you have this stupid neighbor that's just bothering you, and just you need how to tune her out, right? So that's the first thing. That's the first thing of Yeshiva Das. And but the truth is that it goes deeper than that, and that is that a person can and should pride themselves in being a person that is in control. Okay? We said before that the second issue of being a person that's consumed by their lusts and their anxieties is the fact that you become a slave. Is that you reach a state that you're not really in control of your life anymore. And a person who has Yeshiva Das wants to be constantly in control. And it's truly an amazing feeling to know that I'm the boss. And so the more that I can reclaim my control of my life, to reclaim that I'm the boss, I'm the king, so then the more it's going to happen. So the more that I pride myself, the more that I practice, so that's what's called Yeshiva Das. This is what Das. Das is the part of our brain that is in control. Okay, this is like in Kabbalah. So we have Chachma Bina Das. So Das is about making decisions. The Das is the part of me that is in control, as opposed to going on autopilot. Okay, if a very weak Das, so then I'm a wishy-washy person. Then I'll go whatever my whims tell me, whatever my friends tell me, whatever we spoke last week that Rebbe Nachman says that my friends can be more dangerous than my Yetzer Hara. So I'll follow whatever. I'll follow my Yetzer Hara, I'll follow my friends, I'll follow the trends, I'll follow the society, and just like I'm a wishy-washy person because I don't have a strong Das. And that's the most basic thing that I need to be a successful human being, is to be a person with Das, is a person that I am in control, that I'm going to do what I think should be done. I'm not going to let myself just go with the flow. Okay? So the more that I am active about this, the more that I think about this, that I contemplate my Das, I contemplate that I want to be in control, I practice being in control, I speak to my friends about it, I make baby steps, I practice, and so this is actually how I elevate my Das, right? And and then he says something which is the most important part, the most important actual recovery, the most important healing, and that is that it's actually not so hard. It's actually very easy to just break all of these lusts and all of these anxieties, because a person has control, a person has free will. So these are crucial words, and these are perhaps the most important words in this whole teaching. Lehargil dato. Lehargil means to train your das. Okay, to from the word hargel is to what? Regulate is to
condition.
Condition. Yes, that's what I was thinking. To condition yourself to have more das. So what does this mean? So how does a person condition himself to have more das? So this is something that the modern psychology says the same thing. That the way that we deal with anxieties is basically exposure therapy. Okay, what does it mean, exposure therapy? That the person who's suffering from anxiety, so he's telling himself that I need to feel safe. So exposure therapy tells a person, let go of that feeling that you need to feel safe. Right? Just live your life and just function without requiring that feeling of certainty. Okay, so it's like when I can go onto the elevator, and instead of telling myself that stop thinking like that, you're being illogical. So to accept the fact that no, like he's there, he's illogical. Don't try to talk sense into him, but instead just say that's okay. I can deal with uncertainty. I can deal with the fact that I might die. I can deal with the fact that there's this concern that if I go onto the flight, maybe my flight is going to crash. And if I can deal with the fact that maybe something horrible is going to happen to me. Maybe I have this, and just to function, just to keep on, just to let that feeling be. Right? It's the exact same thing on the other side when it comes to lust, when it comes to taivas, that a person who's a slave of his taivas. So he tells himself that I need that feeling of satisfaction. I need that feeling that whenever I have that crave, so then I need to fulfill that crave. Right? So instead of talking logical, instead of saying like that's stupid, you don't need that crave. So he's saying that tell yourself that I can function even though I don't have the crave. Even though I don't have that satisfaction, I can live with the fact that I didn't fulfill my satisfaction. Don't tell yourself, stop thinking that. Don't tell yourself, it's not going to be good for you. You can tell yourself, okay, I have that hunger, but I can live with hunger. And this is a very powerful thing. It's relevant in many other areas of life. That, think about hunger itself. Just this morning, I actually had this morning, that it was like 11:30 in the morning, and I suddenly became very hungry, and I felt like I need to eat something. I hadn't eaten anything the whole day, and so I felt I needed to eat something, and so I ran home to get some cornflakes, and I was feeling like really like my whole body was like feeling like I'm gonna die if I don't eat something, and like as I was eating, as I was like my hands were shaking when I was pouring the milk. It was like I was thinking to myself, like, what's wrong with you? like if it would be a fast day today, you would do fine. You know yourself. Like there's plenty of days that I don't eat until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Like there's nothing wrong with you. There's not what's going on? How come you're? And then I realized that it's all in your head. Like I tell myself this narrative that you're supposed to have eaten something by 11:30, and so because you're thinking about it, that's why you feel hungry. Okay? It's the same thing with clothing. I remember, like, I told you this once, that the one summer, like once I was summer morning, I was walking back from the Kaisel, and I met some students, and he said, "Well, you're probably so hot. You're wearing a suit and a talis." And I said to myself, it's actually interesting. I actually don't feel hot at all, and because like this is what I want to wear. On Shabbos I like wearing a suit. I like wearing a talis, and I'm the first one. I never wear a jacket because it's just always hot. And so what's the difference? That if I'm thinking to myself that I don't want to wear a jacket, but some social norm says that you're supposed to wear a jacket because you're a rabbi, and so no way, I'm not going to listen to that to that rhetoric. And if I do, I'm gonna feel hot, but on Shabbos I want to look good. This is exactly what I want to wear, so I'm actually not hot. And it's the same thing. Like I realized myself that's the same thing about it's also about tznius. That like a girl that feels that I should be wearing this much, but because some halacha, some rabbis say that I should be wearing more, so they're going to be very hot. But if they say this is what I want to wear, then they're not hot. They're actually not hot. And I'm sure that the burqa ladies are not hot because they tell themselves, or their husbands will beat them, I don't know, that they tell themselves that this is exactly how I want to dress. So you're not hot if you're doing exactly what you want to do, right? And so this is this is what it means. This is what Rebbe Nachman says, that lahargil dato, that the more that we just get used to that I don't need to listen to these, I don't need to fulfill the commandments of these different voices of my amygdala, of my davar. So then it will actually allow myself to rebalance. And so many of us, we've already, unfortunately, we've like really messed up our systems, like both with anxieties. The more that you feed into the anxieties, the stronger they become. So then it's even stronger. Then your subconscious is even more sure that this is actually dangerous. So then you have even less peace of mind. Right? And the same thing with lust, that the more that you feed into your lust, so the more that your craving becomes stronger, and the more they become stronger, the harder it is to fight. So that's why with all these things, so there is some rehab that needs to be gone through, but the rehab actually is able to be lahar gil daito, and actually to bring us back to this point of da'at. So I bless us all that we should at least the first thing we got from tonight is that to know our enemy, to know the reality that we're facing, and to know how it works, that we have these little irrational little munchkins inside of our brains, which he calls a davar, which is really messing with us, and to just call them out and say, you're not my boss. And B'ezrat Hashem, that through the knowledge that they are our enemies, so we'll be able to connect to that, to be able to live lives which are really aligned with our higher self and with Hashem's will, which will bring us true satisfaction, which is really what we're looking for, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay.